Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we can start.
Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very special privilege for us in the Nizami Ganjavi International Center to be able to have this dialogue with His Excellency Dongyu, the Director General of the FAO. The FAO is the organization that we turn to for food and agricultural development, as opposed to the World Food Program, which really handles humanitarian aid to people who are facing famine and severe malnutrition. And therefore, today we are looking to a situation where the world, especially the poorest people in the world, are facing very severe challenges. Climate change is going to bring erratic rainfall, and large parts of the poorest continent, like sub-Saharan Africa, has no irrigation and relies on rain. And the erratic rainfall will mean that cycles of drought and flood will cause severe difficulties there. Secondly, many countries have been looking to importing some of their food. Specifically, for example, Egypt and Algeria are among the biggest importers of wheat in the world. And the war in Ukraine has resulted in a spike in the price of wheat, which is larger than the spike in the energy prices. So the IMF and the World Bank, who have just completed their meetings, their spring meetings today, have also warned about the possibilities of famine returning to many parts of the world. And thus, it is a great honor to be able to meet with the FAO, the DG, and the chief scientist. I now turn the floor over to Ismahane Elouafi, the chief scientist of the FAO.
Thank you very much, dear Ismail. And it's really a pleasure to welcome all of you to this event and this cozy meeting, I would call it, and really friend discussion with the Director General of FAO and the DG, Dr. Chu Dongyu, gonna share with us his vision for the future on how we can end hunger and poverty, vision for a better world. And allow me, for the first time, I have the pleasure of introducing my DG. So Dr. Chu Dongyu is Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations since 2019. Dr. Chu studied horticulture science at Wuhan Agricultural University, and then plant breeding and genetics at the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science, and also had a PhD in Wageningen University on environmental sciences. Dr. Chu has lived through and contributed to China reform and China dramatically reduction of poverty and hunger. And his latest position before he joined us here in FAO was China Vice Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs. Dr. Chu's vision is founded on the belief that freedom from hunger is a basic human right, and that in the 21st century, we have the capability to eradicate chronic food insecurity. So without any further ado, let me welcome Dr. Chu Dongyu to address this distinguished group of leaders and give us his speech. Over to you, DG.
Thank you, Ismahane, and also thank you, Ismail, Serageldin, and the organize this special event for me to share my thought with you. And I know most of you have a lot of experience in your professional life related to the socio-economic development and of course, agro-food systems and others, investment, you name it, from development and the humanitarian and the peace, all these important issues. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to address the leaders who have dedicated to improving the whole world and continue to do so, you know, even after you get your official post. you are really, it's an asset, in my opinion. You know, since I come to FAO, I established the FAO Women's Committee and FAO Youth Committee, but also I was annually to address the FAO Retired Association. I said that all the retired staff also is a last golden miner for the organization. We can learn it from you, and also young people can share with their lessons, and also learning from your experience. That's kind of generation heritage from senior to the young one, and that's kind of asset we should build upon. And this time, I really wanted to learn it from you. So today, we continue together to understand how we can end hunger and poverty, to address the food security, health security, social security in a holistic manner. We live in the challenging time, and some people say we have an overlapping crisis from the climate crisis, pandemic, it's a big crisis, and also a lot of conflict around the world, and now is the Ukraine war. So our agri-food system needs a paradigm shift, and it must be transformed to feed the future demand. And of course, solve the current challenges and problems of the global food insecurity. Not only must we provide enough food for the 811 million people who are hungry today, but also we must think of the additional 2 billion more people we will have to feed by 2050. That's our historical task. It is now more than 2 years that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to negatively impact our lives, our health, and our socio-economics, hitting the poorest, the hardest that as they're facing great exposure to the pandemic, and are the most affected by the rise in food and fuel prices, especially during past several months. This month, actually, FAO Food Price Index indicated in March, and the food price already reached the all-time high, up to 12.6% from February, with a large increase for the price of cereals price up to 70.1%, and the vegetable oil even worth 23.2%. In particularly, prices for the staple foodstuff, such as wheat and vegetable oils, have been soaring lately, imposed the extraordinary cost on the global consumers, particularly the poorest. The war in Ukraine has made the matters even worse. With the energy price rising in parallel with the food prices, the purchase power of vulnerable consumers has further decreased. This additional burden comes at the time when the high health spending and the cost of controlling the pandemic are already squeezing the budget of many government and people. Furthermore, the rise in fertilizer price and other agricultural inputs like feed also, people only talk about the fertilizer, but edible feed also increased a lot, and also the seeds and also other agricultural input also. We are experiencing today could lead to lower fertilizer use next season and possibly beyond, with the real perspective of low food productivity resulting in even higher food price later. So that's come to really, negative recycling. That's something I'm deeply worried about the future, not only this month coming, 2022, and also 2023, or even longer. This would potentially result even more undernourished people in 2022 and 2023, based on the modeling of FAO. We probably did another additional several million, highest will be 30 million more. So you can see the world hunger people population already reached the historically higher since 2019. And now it's all this crisis come together, make the situation really, really worrying. So, ladies and gentlemen, despite the enormous challenges that threaten our efforts to end global hunger and poverty, I remain cautiously optimistic. You know, I was born in a rice grower family. So one of the 5 children in Chinese village in early 1960s. At that time, China has endured the nationwide starvation. So, and the feeling of hunger has been engraved into my memory even since I was a small boy. When I was 12 years old, I came to learning about Professor Yuan Longping, having a rice father for the first time. That was when I realized that the problem could also be a driver of the progress. I understood that agricultural technology held the power to produce more food for all the people. I made up my mind that when I grew up, I would devote myself to agriculture, work for the farmers, promote the rural development by all tools in the toolbox. Freedom from hunger is a basic human right. So I think all of you work also for the people and get rid of hunger and poverty in the past decade. But unfortunately now in 21st century, we still have so many necessary conditions, knowledges, and capacity to eradicate hunger, but we didn't manage it to reach it. We have to think, rethinking, recycle, and restart. Agri-food systems hold the key to achieving the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And agriculture is the most inclusive tool to end the poverty and hunger. Today, as the Director General of FAO, my vision is that of the world with better production, better nutrition, better environment, a better life for all, leaving no one behind. That's the 4 betters. It was endorsed here. FAO New Strategy Framework for next decade was endorsed by the last Minister Conference in 2021. And the better production means increase of farming incomes through the high yield, enhance the labor productivity, optimize the resource utilization, and increase the market for agricultural products. That requires integrating and upscale the technology in agriculture and less food loss. That's related to post-harvest treatment and all the best practice of farming. Better nutrition means increase agricultural productivity to produce enough, safe, and high quality food for healthy growth and the development of people. It also includes ensuring efficient and sustainable production along with balanced consumption and zero food waste. Look, globally, especially in the city, a lot of food waste. That's also the big area we have to look at and focus on the improvement. A better environment means developing a process and circular agriculture. And we can start from crop, animals, and also for the all the biomass recycling, which optimize the use of water, land, pesticide, fertilizer, and other agricultural input. Produce more with less input and less negative impact on the environment. We must develop a green and climate resilient agriculture, promote the sustainable management of forestry, marine resources, protect biodiversity, maintaining ecological landscapes. A better life for all means having the vulnerable, internationally, as you know, seeds, small island development states, LDCs, least developed countries, and LLDCs, least landlocked developing countries, and other conflict areas. That's, I think, look at the map of world map. That is a vulnerable region of countries. And by the hand-in-hand initiative, that's my first initiative when I come to the office 1st of August 2019. promote inclusive rural transformation by scaling up investment and facilitate access for the rural poor to the assets, services, financing, decent jobs, and also improve the livelihood and business opportunities. We must remove the constraints faced by the women from the participation in and benefiting equally from this process of transformation. And we must promote the empowerment of the youth. Young people is our future, especially in the Africa and other developed nations. And if how to empower the young people for the future, that's a big issue and a challenge for the politicians and for the key partners in the world. That's why I said that we established a youth committee in FAO and to get all the young staff will be more innovative and more creative, and of course, more dynamic. We must ensure that no one is left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, the FAO Strategy Framework 2022-31 aims to support the 2030 agenda through the transformation to more efficient and more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable agri-food systems. So we start more efficient, because that's the key, and they're more inclusive, not only between men and women, and also between urban area and rural area, and between rich and poor. That's inequality issues. 3 types of the inequality in the world. Resilient, of course, we need a more resilient systems for agriculture and food and for rural development. And then we need a more responsible investment to improve the adaptation and mitigation capacity. And of course, sustainable development is always our goal. To achieve this transformation, we need a holistic approach to minimize the trade-offs, use the data, science, technologies, and innovation, and enabling policy. We are currently developing the first FAO Science and Innovation Strategy to prioritize science, innovative solutions and technology tools in full alignment with the 2030 agenda. I should say in the history of FAO, first time I established a post of a chief scientist. Ismahane, she is become first in the history of the chief scientist in FAO. Now she is responsible for all this strategy and also related innovative works across these divisions and sectors and FAO systems, because we are operating in 168 countries. So it's very important to have not only science, technology innovation, and also innovation on other things, on the business model and on the policy and on the relevant way of doing. You can't run a business as usual. So we need innovative spirit in this big organization. The strategy will place the science and innovation at the heart and the core of our works over the next decade. Recent FAO flagship initiatives are further concrete examples of our commitment strengthening organizations' leadership role in science and innovation as the drivers for the transformation of agri-food system. Let's mention 3 of them. First is Hand-in-Hand initiative, which is based on geospatial data platform. It's owned, led by the members, and identify gaps in the rural transformation and matching countries with partners to deliver tangible results based on big data. And the One Country, One Priority product initiative helps the countries develop inclusive, profitable, and environmental sustainable value chain of special agro products. As you know, the agriculture is more dependent on the specific environment. So each country, each region, each location, they should have a special advantage for the certain agro products. That's the beauty of agro food systems. So each country, we start to promote one special priority product, not only products itself, it's a whole value chain. And that's also build up the national branding and the best practice around these products. And then you can go on to the end. from 1 to 8 kind of products. 1,000 Digital Value Chain Initiative put the digitalization at the core of the rural transformation and prosperity by converting villages across the world into digital hub. You know, all the digital world, and also digital village is one. And that's, I think, the digital village is a start point to transform rural development. Ladies and gentlemen, my vision and the firm commitment is rooted in the transformative partnership, which generates game-changing solutions to address the complex set of ecosystem challenges and achieve the SDGs. But we cannot do this alone. We need to work collectively towards our common goal. Cooperation and partnership are essential to finding the innovative solutions for the growing and complex challenges facing our ecosystem. In cooperation with our partners, FAO focus on the developing and sharing knowledge and expertise and harness the foremost technology and innovations to deliver on our shared goal of feeding the world, nurturing the planet, advancing the equitable livelihood, and building resilient ecosystems. Let's work together to end hunger and poverty for a better world. What is in your hand, in our hand, but it's more important in the hand of the younger generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ismail, you are muted. Take it off. Yeah. You are, yeah.
Now you can hear me.
Yeah.
Now you can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Director General. We are very grateful for the strategy that you have laid out, the 4 betters: science and innovation, partnership and cooperation, and development along with resilience as you struggle for the SDGs and fighting poverty, elimination of poverty and hunger. Let me simply say that we have here with us 20 leaders from many countries, 16 countries I count. And I would propose that we ask 3 persons to ask their questions, and then we come back to the Director General to give him a chance, and then Ismahane and I will alternate taking 3 by 3. So my first 3 will be President Vaira Vike-Freiberga, co-chair of the NGIC, President of Latvia, and we have President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, President of Croatia, and Maria Fernanda Espinosa, the co-chair, the president of the UN General Assembly and 73rd General Assembly, and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of National Security of Ecuador. So, Madam President Vaira, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Chu Dongyu, I'd first of all like to thank you for this broad overview of the problems facing. How are we to feed the world and extinguish mass hunger? The challenges are multiple, and you have given us the main outlines of the steps that are involved. I think that one of the first ones that we would like to acknowledge is the contribution of science to food productivity, and the crops have become, in the last 100 years, I think, richer and more abundant, and the scientists cannot be blamed for lack of imagination or devotion to their task. I know that in Canada, there's an institute at Guelph, where full-time scientists are busy, always improving the varieties of wheat that are grown in Canada so that they're more resistant to the cold, they're more resistant to insects, they're more resistant to water shortages or indeed to excess of water. But we also know that climate change has come to interfere with the best laid plans of mice and men. Again, Canada, which was my home for a great many decades, I was distressed to see that the Manitoba, where we expect to be wheat fields, you have lakes. There have been such floods that everything is covered in water. Similarly, in the plains of Saskatchewan, which is also a wheat basket of the world. But then another factor which comes in with climate change and the capricious nature of climate changes, apart from the human interference in the climate warming, are armed conflicts, which have a disastrous effect on people's ability to plant their crops, to reap their harvests, and to live normal lives. We see this in Ethiopia, we see it in Somalia, and I think currently absolutely distressing situation with the Russian Federation invading Ukraine, a close neighbor of my country, Latvia, and Ukraine, which has been known forever as the brain basket of not just Europe, but of many other parts of the world. And if a country is being attacked and being shelled constantly, its city is destroyed, its infrastructure is destroyed. Obviously, farmers also cannot go on and plant their crops, and there are going to be serious shortages of wheat and vegetable oil from the typically famous Ukrainian sunflower fields that are not going to be harvested again. So that and this happens in other parts of the world where we have conflict, but it is extremely distressing to see it in if you like, in the developed part of the world, such a disastrous armed conflict arising out of, frankly, to my understanding, for no objectively understandable reason, a totally destructive war, which is going to have repercussions and a domino effect. Already in my country, we find that old age pensioners who have low pensions since the times of the when we were under Soviet occupation find that we still have a cold, rather cold spring here on the 57th parallel north. They are practically spending most of their old age pension on their heating bill because the price of fuel, heating fuel, has gone up catastrophically since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. And they have hardly anything left over for their food, but the food prices also are already rising. And so that our government is going to have a really serious problem in terms of already here in a country that's part of the European Union. We are going to face the potential of hunger among our lowest strata of income. Multiply that by any number of factors in sub-Saharan Africa and elsewhere, I think that the world is really facing serious problems. But thank you, sir, for your overview, because you have given us a broad picture and a clear understanding of exactly where we stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And may I now turn to President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, please, for your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. Dr. Chu Dongyu, thank you very much for your overview. I don't want to repeat what President Freiberga has said, but obviously the war in Ukraine is on everyone's mind, and how that will affect the shortages of food that we expect to see as of this fall, and the prices of foodstuffs, energy, and everything else going up and driving inflation, and all of us heading into an economic crisis. I would like to ask you if you could please elaborate on 2 points in that respect. First, to what degree has this current crisis, the war in Ukraine, affected your priorities for the immediate future and the work of your organization? Do you have any ideas on what we all can do in order to prevent the food shortages and to prevent the prices of food skyrocketing? what the alternatives would be. What would countries such as, for instance, Croatia or Hungary, where we have lots of arable land that we're actually not using, how can I encourage my country to get into agricultural production, to produce more wheat and other foodstuffs that we're going to need to feed not just Croatia, but the rest of the world? And my second question is not exactly connected to this war, but a question in general. Like in all other walks of life, and we've seen that with the COVID pandemic as well, there is actually quite strong resistance to science and scientific development in food production and food modification, lots of resistance against GMO, etc. So could you please elaborate on your arguments on how you talk to these people who are skeptical towards science, and what you tell them why we need scientific improvements in order to provide enough foodstuffs? So thank you again.
Thank you very much, President Kolinda. Let me now turn to Maria Espinosa, please. You have the floor.
Okay, first.
Maria, you have a question for
Yes. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Xu, Director General. Thank you for your masterclass. Thank you for reminding us that the freedom of hunger is a human right, but I would add it is also a precondition for our human security. And we know that we were far behind achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 2, even before the COVID pandemic, even before the war in Ukraine. So I want to commend you for a very successful food systems summit last year. I think it put the discussion on this paradigm shift on food systems on the table, and it brought global leadership to rethink this new paradigm. And thank you also for sharing the strategy to really make this paradigm shift in the way we think and we address and act upon food systems. My question, and I have to say also on a personal note, that I'm very happy to see you again. We met when I was still the president of the General Assembly, and you were about to start your tenure as Director General. So I'm very, very happy to see everything that you have done in the past months, of course. And my question is very simple. You basically mentioned the idea of looking at food system from a holistic perspective, of connecting food systems with biodiversity conservation, with nature-based solutions, but also to tackle the climate crisis together with the food crisis. And I think it is the right approach. During the Food Systems Summit that I follow closely, the Secretary General said that every 2 years, there would be a stock taking of the implementation of the commitments. The first stock taking will happen in 2023. The same year when we are planning a summit of the future by the UN. My question to you is that if there are any plans to bring together the summit of the future and the stock taking exercise, because I think that they go hand in hand. And just to close, we would really be privileged to see you and to hear you during the upcoming Baku Forum in June. So we really hope that we will benefit from your wisdom there, either in presence, ideally, or perhaps virtually, because now technology permits that as well. So thank you again, Director General, for this masterclass.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. Floor is yours.
Okay. Now, at first, I salute all of you. I respect you from Vaira, Vike-Freiberga. I was in Canada 31 years ago, 1991. I visited several places in Canada, Gulf, you mentioned, at Prince Island, and New Brunswick, and so on, and others. I was 25 years plant breeder, so I know that all the issues, how to to use the conventional approach, biotechnology approach to increase the stress, abiotic stress, abiotic stress resistance from the point of view plant breeding and now gene editing. Before I come to Vice Minister, I was the Vice President of Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. So even in 2011, I published one article in Nature on the genomic sequence of the Solanaceae crops, tomato, and tomato, and also with my colleagues. So in short, Canadian wheat, they feed the purpose at the beginning for the bread. And then they want to open the market in Asia because Chinese, Japanese, and Korean people want to have a noodle. So the noodle, the wheat is different from the bread wheat. So I think science is the power. Yeah. And of course, and the President, Kitarovic, I was in your country when you were president, but they didn't allow me to see you because your Minister of Agriculture was my close friend. I took us through from your country to the Sarajevo, by car.
I'm sorry I didn't see you.
I was there, it's 2019, no, 2018 or 17. I was 2 times there. But, Ukraine war in Ukraine or other conflict, it's remind us, food is not only, basically human rights, and also not only direct impact on the producer countries, and indirectly even more worth to the other vulnerable countries who depend on that. That's one lesson we learn. I think second also, war is war. It's not good. Yeah, and the people are suffering. Yeah, look at all the war in Yemen, in Somalia, in Afghanistan, and any places. Civil war or other kind of war, we call the man-made disaster. And they combine the natural disaster. And that's something makes the situation worse. So natural disaster, sometimes we couldn't prevent. Man-made disaster, we should use our human nature, human humanity, and integrity to try to stop. That's what I say, especially you are former leaders and the public influential figures. So that's something I'm a geneticist, so we need an evolution. Civilization can be approved by evolution ourselves because we are intelligent animal. That's from point of view of the animal and genetics. And of course, FAO, we are the developed agency. So we can try our best to have the conflict areas and to recover their production with the technology, with expertise, with a certain capacity buildings. But we need more support from donors, from the countries. But for the time being, I think the emergency or humanitarian agencies like the WFP and the OCHA in UN, they can do more. But the FAO, we will focus our mandate to prepare ourselves to have some immediate reaction and response to help them, farmers, especially smallholder farmers. But I think that we have to do more together with our key stakeholders. And so for your country, as you said, the Croatia, you have a full of potential to produce more and with less, I said. Produce more food, high quality food, and more diversity food. But you need more investment on science and innovation, research and development, R&D. You can't build your country as modern as and based on only natural resources. You need to improve your modern level or modernization level. based on science and innovation, not only agricultural food, medical science, and other environment science. Environment is not only natural solution, we need the environment science to look at. And even I know you are football lover. So, and the football, why we complain Chinese football is so bad? Because they didn't have a good technology. But look at the winter sports. We learn a lot of technology from other countries. Now they improve very quickly.
Yes, indeed.
Any part of the life, even now, and that's why I say four better life, not only better livelihood. And look, your countryside and the road, some part is very good near the coast, but in the inland, it still need a lot of improvement. Also horticulture. Horticulture is not bringing you a good income for farmers. Also improve your livelihood who enjoy the environment. So in short, and then Maria, I've been NOSA. I'm so delighted just to come back from your country. I had a very successful regional conference for FAO. And also I have a special honor to meet your president, your vice president in Ecuador. And the vice president is a famous doctor on surgery. Yeah? And I had a very personal discussion with him, not only as a leader and as a scientist. And then your president is a famous economist, a banker. So we had a lot of discussion on regional development. So I think you were the GA president. So now the world, we have to focus on the development. Scale up, speed up SDGs. Otherwise, there were more conflict, more tension. Because when you have more development, you can solve the problem. Without the development, you will accumulate problems, not only for agro-food systems and also for other issues. So development is the key. Second, for Latin America, you have a big potential to be developing better and more. And also it's a basket of the world and a major export places. It's not only the Brazil, Argentina, and also Ecuador. I've been in the high mountains of indigenous people. You can really combine the conservation of germplants and biodiversity in situ, not in vitro. Yeah? And they keep the life still combined with the traditional and with the modern. So, and also banana. I said banana in your country, and it's $20 less than per tons when you export it to other countries. Philippines, banana is $20 to $25 more per tons. You are two largest banana exporter in the world. So that means you have a bigger room to improve quality of the banana, and with a proper post-harvest treatment, storage, and also make use of the more food diversity from banana. Not only banana as a raw material. That's agriculture, we need a more intensive processing technology. And that's something we need more investment on agro-food systems. So in short, and three of you, one is common, make sustainable use of natural resources based on your local condition. Second, promote your country's one or two most important commodity first, and then you know which is the most good varieties and how they process more value-added products, not only export the raw materials. Third, and then you can promote your food culture. Food is not only food is also culture. That's why always my colleague Lohan Thomas, he's here. French is famous for food culture, but first they have a good food, like Chinese also, and wine. There are so many countries produce good wine, but why do you remember French wine? Because they have a national branding. And I strongly encourage all of you, you are now influential people in your country. You promote one. And South Korea friend, former president, he promoted kimchi in Times Square. Now everybody knows kimchi from South Korea. No, actually, kimchi from China, from Japan, also very long history, but not every, kimchi from South Korea. It's good, national promotion and good for farmers. Yeah, so please, one small advice offer you, promote one best products you like from your country, and then make it internationally famous. If you're willing to offer the free platform for you, because we have a digital FAO. Thank you.
Thank you, DG, and let's continue the discussion. We have a next question from Dr. Amina Ghorib Fakim, President of Mauritius. Over to you, Amina.
Thank you. Again, thank you to the NGIC, and also thank you, Dr. Chu Dongyu, for your very extensive, of course, brilliant presentation on food security. I will speak from the south. I'll speak as an islander, a living existential threat with climate change. And we know that all our food systems, and this is true for Africa and for the rest of the world, agriculture, forestry, fisheries, aquaculture, they're all buckling under the stress being imposed by changing climate. But when it comes to small island states, they are home to a diversity, to unique flora and fauna, and especially lesser known and underutilized crops, which may provide answers to hidden hunger. And we know that these islands, which are of course biodiversity hotspots, they are also overwhelmed with the climate crisis. And we know that small islands, quite a few of them have already disappeared. And yet they are a repository of unique flora and unique fauna, which may be the answers for hidden hunger. So I'm just asking a quick question as to what is the strategy of the FAO with respect to seeds, and especially in the safeguarding of germplasm and seeds. Unfortunately, seeds are not being taken seriously. Of course, there has been collaboration with the Svalbard, but I don't know how intensive we are really looking at the African continent in terms of saving of these original seeds, which may have some of the solutions for hidden hunger, of course, hunger generally. Thank you.
So DG, we're gonna take another 2 questions and we come back to you, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
So I have my list.
Maybe next. 1 by 1 is better.
1 by 1?
Yeah.
I don't mind. You wanna go 1 by 1? Go ahead, DG.
Yeah, she is expert, I know. She's quite a challenging question for me, but I invited her also participate in the FAO meeting for, that's my 3rd time I met you. I was in your country, early 2019, I come over from Africa, and because that time your country asked the Chinese to increase the quota of the import of sugarcane sugar. I was a green lighter for your country to increase the 50,000 tons of the sugarcane sugar import quota. And that's why my colleague knows that, you are here, I was first one to establish the office for seeds and LDCs in UN system so far. And after I got the FLDG in the office, I established this organizational arrangement. So far, only in the UN headquarters have a special office for small island state and landlocked the LDCs. So, and then now FAO, I really appreciated the contribution from a small island state, because 43 countries. First, you look after the public goods for entire world, to preserve the germplasm all the marine resources for us, for the future of generation of the human being, not only for yourself. That's why I said, okay, we wanted to strengthen that issues. Second, traditionally, commercial logistic depend on from an island to the continent. But look, all the island people, they are immigrant generation, 1,000 years ago from a continent to island. Now it's time for us to help them to get reconnected with the continent. How? Digital. Because only digital solution, the people they're willing to pay for their own cost. They're traveling to your island, they pick up food or souvenirs, They don't care how much they pay for the tickets. If we wanted to transfer the tons of vegetable flowers from island to the continent, no competition from your farmers, growers. But that's why we want to combine agriculture with the tourism. I was the local leaders in China. First time I combined agriculture with the tourism in Ningxia. It's a Muslim province. I worked there 7.5 years. Before I went there, the people always wanted to export the food and to the Beijing, to the Hong Kong, to the rich city. We have no competition. And they are changing another way around, invited them to come. They pay their own tickets. They buy their own things. So that's island, so digital, open digital e-commerce. And then the people, they come and they pick up their favorable things. Third, I think also it's very important for the small islands that you have to set your own certain level of self-supply, self-supply by yourself. Especially, that's why I had a talk with the president of MADEF this time in March. I visited MADEF again, and I visited Panama. Panama is not an island, but I visited other island also this year. So pandemic lessons learned for the small islands there, you have to build up, not produce locally, but you have to strategically arrangement yourself with some countries can offer you stable, constant supply for certain major goods. Yeah, that's one. And then, of course, you can exploit your own potential by science and innovation, find some special products from the sea, from the island. Because some sea aquatic food, I don't sell fish, aquatic food, will be the new generation of the functional food in the future. And that's a huge market and for the people who live in the continent. So let's work together. And FAO, we wanted to, explore the big potential of the biodiversity, especially from the island, from the mountainous countries. That's why I combined the office seeds, LLDCs together. Thank you.
Thank you, DG, and that's a nice debate. Let's move to a question from Peter Roman, Prime Minister of Romania. Peter, over to you.
No? You're muted.
You are still muted, yeah. You are still muted.
But
yes.
Now? Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Q. It was really very interesting, both your presentation and your answers. Now, I have to tell you that I'm not also a politician. In my country, in Romania, I'm also a scientist. And I'm actually today looking more to my scientific work, which is I'm a specialist in hydrology and the physics of the environment. We know that we are approaching the safe limits of the planetary boundaries from the point of view of the biosphere integrity. And you mentioned, in other words, the same thing. And from this perspective, there are two decisive factors strongly correlated, which is food and water. Food and water. There is both are under very growing scarcity. We are moving towards, I would say, a new big emergency, very close, which is global water and food scarcity. I give you two examples from my experience. First is related to irrigation. I think we should impose as much as possible to have irrigation only drop by drop. Big use of water is not anymore acceptable from the point of view of the planetary boundaries. Secondly, is the choice you mentioned, just mentioned, the choice of species and varieties of different cultures. Which ones? Those who retain a maximum of water from rain, retain more of maximum of water at their roots in order to be capable to resist, to stand when the drought is coming, because we obviously, both the scarcity of water and food is in the rise. You probably know that water use has grown at more than twice the rate of the human population in the last century. This is unsustainable, obviously. And of course, food, of course, more food is a perpetual imperative of the humanity. But food food doesn't exist without water. So I have a suggestion. What do you think if it's not better to have food and water global organization, not just food? Thank you.
No, you're right to point out, but the last sentence I couldn't decide by myself. You know, it's, you know, when I was executive board member of the CGIR, you know, CGIR, other group for international cultural research. That's why I mentioned Jan Johnson, who was the vice president of World Bank, was a leading group for us. I was a member of the 21. And then we endorsed the Global Challenge Program, Food and Water. That was in 2003 in Paris, and the 19th of May. I remember very well because we had a lot of debate, and that's a Global Challenge Program endorsed by $50 million. That time, quite big. And then what I was 7.5 years in Ningxia, it's a 200 millimeter rainfall in a year. So how drought it is. And then the water scarcity, water efficiency, and water policy, especially price policy. That's the three issues. I designed the reform in the province of the Chinese province. So what scarcity is there? And then the Israel, China, and other parts of the world, they use the drip irrigation. But then combined with liquid fertilizer, and they become the fortification system. That is the future. So improve the water efficiency and save the water and improve the productivity and the quality at the same time. Second, as you mentioned, food only be achieved, and also we have to look at the water efficiency by unit kilos. Look, each commodity have a different water efficiency for corn, for soybean, for beef, and for milk. You know, maybe some of you didn't know, one cow consumed 8 times more than human being a day of the water, because the milk is 92% water. So that's why my friends from the Near East, I always remind them, better to import the milk from other regions rather than develop your own cow, because you are so suffering from water scarcity. And from Egypt, my friend also. So, but it is very important food for you because it's a traditional. You have to eat the milk products. And last but not least, it's a big potential for globally. There are a lot of areas, 90% area still is dependent on the natural rainfall, natural rain-fed agriculture. We need massive investment on the irrigation systems in the world. If we increase 5% of Arab land for irrigation system, we don't have no any problem with water supply and agricultural food increase for the another 2 billion or 3 billion people more. So that's why the years a lot of, even look the Europe and America, you don't have the irrigation farming, only depend on the nature, and the Canadian. Hardly to see the irrigation. Irrigation is only in Asia, in China, in Japan, in India, or some parts of other world, in Near East, Iraq, Iran, and Syria used to be, you know, and some parts of the France, and a few, and in Egypt. I remember I was a participant in the evaluation program on the drip irrigation system in Nile River. It's not a big area. So irrigation investment, that's a huge investment for the future, not only for our current. So that's a big opportunity for improvement, not only what efficiency, and also for the natural resources management. That's what my observation, and also based on my 30 years experience, you know. And that's why also for pasteurized field, also we need also new management, how to reduce the water consumption. Even, you know, pasteurized field need the water, yeah, but they can easily reduce 30% of the water consumption for the field. So there are a lot of technology, but I think it's still, you know, early stage of people and the politicians, they look at the issues more seriously and more investment, and there will be, I think in my opinion, based on the current technology, it's not a big issue. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, and we're gonna move on to a question from Kateryna Yushchenko, the First Lady of Ukraine. Over to you, Kateryna.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to express my appreciation to the Director General, to the FAO, and to the NGIC for this panel, and also for your attention to what's happening in Ukraine. As you know, Ukraine is the 4th largest exporter of grain in the world. And in some areas, such as sunflower seeds, we are #1. In fact, half of the exports of sunflower seed oil in the world comes from Ukraine. But now, and we are one of the largest contributors to the World Food Program. But now what's happening in Ukraine, as you know, is that they are blocking the ports and stopping all shipments of our grain. They are confiscating food. They're destroying, they're directly targeting and destroying the agricultural equipment in Ukraine, trying to stop Ukrainians from planting and then from harvesting. And indeed, the Russian troops are also placing mines in the land, and there are thousands of acres of land that will be unusable until we are able to demine them. And for Ukrainians, this reminds us very much of the Holodomor of 32-33, when food was used as a weapon. But then the food was taken from us and was exported. This time it's taken and not exported. And so the whole world is suffering along with Ukraine. We had been rapidly increasing our food production, 3 to 5 million tons a year. And last year it was up to 12 million tons more we had been producing. And one thing that we had talked about right before the war, but we think it is still relevant, is to create a joint international initiative where there would be investment into Ukrainian agriculture. We have 53,000 farmers, and we had a potential for much, much more production. The problem was a lack of the appropriate infrastructure, the lack of the equipment, the elevators, the logistical, the trains and the ships and everything that we needed to, and so much of it was going to waste. So one thing we were thinking that if there were an international initiative led by yourself, Director General, where financing could be put into the Ukrainian agricultural economy. And then from that, 3 million or so, 5 million tons of the grain could be directly targeted toward poor countries, countries that greatly need the food. That's something we have been talking about. It's something we would still like to pursue despite the war, because I think it's a win-win situation for our farmers and also for the world. I think we could feed the world if we were given the support. So that is my first question. I also wanted to quickly address, this is not so much on Ukraine, but President Kolinda talked about science, and I also want to raise some of the new out-of-the-box technologies that are coming up that are helping. For example, in Ukraine, we have very innovative young people coming up with drone technology that's able to assess the land, assess the needs, and very interesting things that are able to expand our production. We have seen out-of-the-box initiatives such as the World Food Kitchen, which is now feeding the people that have been most hurt by the war in our country by working with local restaurants and providing food right at the spots of the conflict. And again, it's an individual initiative coming from the bottom up that is very, very innovative and is addressing an important issue. Since I have become a refugee, we're living in Western Europe now. My son discovered something to address what you talked about, food waste. At the end of the day, he finds through digital technology what restaurant is selling food that was not sold in the day, and he gets it for 1/3 the price. So he asks me at the end of the day, Mama, do you want pasta or do you want Chinese food, or what would you like? And we're able to get it for a very low price. And it makes us feel good that we know this is food that would normally be tossed, but because he is willing to walk the 5 blocks to get it, we are getting it at a very low price, and it's very sustainable. So my second question, my first was on Ukraine. The second question was how you are looking at these new up and coming startups and technologies. And just my final point, you talked about how important it is to promote the food in your country. I'd like to say that Ukraine has introduced this year in UNESCO borscht and has nominated it for world attention as a product from our country. So that we feel that's very important also. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kateryna. I've been so many times to your beautiful country, and since when I was scientist, and then vice president of the CAS, and then vice minister, and we strengthened a lot of collaboration. But my colleague, Lohan Thomas, he was FAO for more than 30 years. He was director of OER, Emergency and Resilience Department. Since 2014, FAO have a lot of physical present in your country to try to assist your country. So it's about 9 years. And of course, as you rightly said, that Ukraine, it's a basket, and the bread basket for the world. And because you have a vast land of the black soil. So agriculture should depend on natural resources first. Second, I think also you need a lot of, integration of the technology and equipment and modern equipment, and also with the family farmers management together. That's what I think, of course, before war, and I had a meeting with your Minister of Agriculture here in Rome, and also FAO assisted the Ukraine land policy also. So, and that's what, of course, the war, sooner or later, there will be stopped. I hope. Yes, it should be stopped. But we have to look ahead, as I said, and my colleague already have some response plan once the condition allow us to go. And then we will scale up, speed our assistance in your country. Second, you mentioned that the stops. I was one of the promoter and supporter to the startups in China and in Africa, and also in other parts of Asia. Startups for agribusiness is really, really promising for younger generation and also for the new business. Maybe you didn't know why some tickets, air tickets was so cheap. They just simply, you know, they sell the 10% of the regular tickets, and then the majority is for discount, and then they have a 10% that will be left over. So, and then you can start with the digital e-commerce. You can get $1 for one ticket, but normally maybe you have to pay $1,000. So, as you said that now your kids help you to get some food. It's a some business model. So like your lady, you pay the full fashionable clothes for $1,000 as a new arrival, and then it's for middle class people, and they pay for $600 to $800, and that's already have some minimal profit, and then the rest, the 30%. During the Christmas or whatever, and now Ramadan, and then you have 10% of that price. So still they can get money because they already had enough profit. So all these products, they have a marketing differentiation business model. 3 groups or 5 groups of marketing differentiation. So for agriculture and food, we have still a lot of business model. We have to learn it from others. For seeds also, same. Even for equipment, and especially small equipment. And for sugar also. You can differentiate to the 100 different kind of sugar products. Not only sugar. Yeah, I encourage my friends in your country, and Mauritius. You can divide it to 100 different kind of sugar, and then you sell it and promote. So there are big potential for the new technology, new business model, and especially online e-commerce, C2C, C2B, B2C. So there are different combinations to change the world, and especially for the less developed countries, remote countries, and you can easily reach the big market or highest market. That's something is powerful of the new technology and new business model. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director General. I have on my list 3 additional questions for you. One coming from Ambassador Susan Elliott, one coming from Prime Minister Zlatko Lagumdzija of Bosnia, and one coming from Ambassador Robert Cekuta of the United States. So will you take them one at a time, or do you want to combine them, or how do you want to go? Because I'm worried about your time. Or will you stay with us?
I have a 3:30. I have another meeting. Huh? I have 10 minutes.
Okay, so let's go with the questions as rapidly as we can, and we'll start with Ambassador Susan Elliott. You're muted.
First, Mr. Secretary General, let me thank you for your time and for answering so many diverse questions, especially I think what you pointed out is how complex these issues are, because they're a combination of new technologies, trying to figure out how we can close the gap between developed and underdeveloped countries. And as Kateryna has pointed out, and President Freiberga, the effects of conflict on these. And so you've already kind of answered my question, because my question was going to be, what will the FAO do to counteract or to help keep from having a worse food insecurity because of the lack of, because of the conflict in Ukraine, the lack of the ability for Ukrainians to be able to export their agricultural products. And also because, there are countries that have traditionally gotten agricultural products, even from Russia, but with those sanctions, it's really a situation where many countries are, I think, going to face huge issues. So that was my question. I think you've kind of answered it, but I just will say what I was thinking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we proceed, Mr. Director General, or do you want to comment?
Okay, I think, the food production, of course, which was during past 20, 30 years due to the globalization. And each country, they found themselves, it's most feed the products they're willing, they are preferred to produce. But now, due to the pandemic, due to the interaction of the logistics, not only war and the conflict, I think for a lot of members, they repurpose, rethinking, replanning, redesign their food security. That's big issues. Yeah. Second, and for like Egypt, they used to import a lot of wheat from Russia and the Ukraine. But I know for sure they will be reduce the dependence afterwards. So and that's also good for local farmers to use the opportunity for their livelihood or income generation. So that's one of my comments and observations.
Thank you. Thank you. Prime Minister Zlatko Lagumdzic.
Thank you, Ismail. Thank you, Director Dongyu. Few short comments or questions, very direct questions. You answered to Maria Espinosa her beautiful question, but she had a second question also, which I would like to remind you of. Global Baku Forum is in June 16 to 18. And I hope you will just, in your second reminder, you will just confirm that you're going to be with us in any form. So just put in your notebook, 16 to 18 of June, that's a great gathering of us. And I'm just reiterating Maria Espinosa's question, which we are hope that, it will be on your agenda. Second thing, I think that Ambassador O'Donnell, Francis had a beautiful excellent questions on chat about artificial intelligence in Sahara, and I won't put them on a table, but if you can have some comments on it, that would be great. But one thing I want to suggest you and have a comment on, we have excellent cooperation with the World Health Organization, and we're planning to do also, because we think that FAO is a really perfect example of multilateral organization that fits in our overall vision of the work of NGIC as a platform of like-minded people and entities. And obviously, this discussion is showing that we are the same group of people and like-minded individuals and entities as well. So it would be good if we could establish some kind of, maybe with, further on, see how we can make this concrete with Ismahane, and then see how we can proceed the way we do with WHO. I think it would be a good thing. And of course, you're welcome to use NGIC as a platform. We would like to be very helpful to your organization, your mission, and your vision that you are outlining very clearly. And we think that if we fit in some of your, let's say, next moves, you can count on us definitely that we can do something together to be maybe the voice of your organization as well. You mentioned very many times science and innovation. I cannot agree more, but I think that we should move a little bit more in the area of wisdom and innovation. And that's what we think that we can offer together. And having said so, I think we are seeing that one of our major projects that we are working on is to try to see how we can define new multilateralism that will be more responsive to the needs of the changing world. And in that sense, it would be of great help if we could count on your support when we are having those activities that are dealing with shaping the new multilateralism, especially because having in mind that your organization is an organization that a lot of people will support and see as a beacon of multilateralism, not because of the values that it represent, because sometimes the values are not on agenda of the major players. Interests are on agenda of the major players. And your organization at the same time is very rich with common denominator of interests of everyone. So that is the reason why we think that FAO can be really driving force to new forms of multilateralism, because you have end values that you stand for, and you have interests that have big common denominator, even of the most influential stakeholders. So in that sense, I think it would be great that we could be working together. And of course, looking forward to see you in Baku, right?
Thank you. And, I can't promise you now, but I try my best. I'm a very open-minded. You can see I was a scientist for 25 years. I'm so happy to discuss with you something, because you have a lot of experience. When you ask a question, I don't know what you are thinking behind with your years of experience. But that's where I'm learning from you. Second, of course, the Ismahane, she was my the outreach, and she can look after all the issues, because we need also network to support the shaping the world based on the science, based on the technology, based on the innovation. That's our future. You don't like it or like it, that's our future. Because look, when I was a child, I didn't have a calculator. Now I have to work with you digital, computer, mobile, every day. And before I come, FAO was dependent on all the papers, and now the paperless organization. That's the power of evolution. We have to how to evolve the world by technology and science. So I know some countries have different policy, but also at the same time for the agricultural food policy on innovation and science, we want to promote. That's why in this part of the world, it used to be easy to talk about the biotechnology. I know when I was 30 years of studying Wageningen, the biotechnology was not a good name. And now everyone gets the vaccine from mRNA. mRNA, engineering the vaccine. I didn't hardly to hear any against. That's a science. That's a power of science. So let's work together, but not regularly or irregularly, and not the fixed, because it's more flexible for you and for me. And of course, Ismail here, she can also be there if we need a FAO. That's why I created a job for her here. Otherwise, I'm still chief scientist in China if I'm not the FODG. So thank you. Thank you for your support.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Director General, and we're very happy to follow up with our beloved Ismahane. We hope that you will honor us in Baku, 16 to 18 June, and that we will stay in touch, and maybe we can also formalize a bit of how we can work better, as we have done with the WHO through a small memorandum of understanding on what we can do together. But I'm very conscious of your time constraint, and we now have our last intervention coming from Ambassador Robert Cekuta. Brevity is the soul of it. We give the Director General a chance to answer you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Director General. This has been fantastic. But I would just like to maybe this is a good closing question. Building on the interventions by President Grabar-Kitarovic, President Garib Fakim, Maria Espinosa, what would you like to see from the United States? What particular things from the United States or the G7 or G20 in carrying forth the work you've got to be doing? Any specifics that you could be giving us that we might be able to help you with?
You on behalf of State Department or on behalf of USDA?
No, I am now retired, so I can say the rude things I was never allowed to say as a full-time diplomat, sir.
No, I've been working with American friends since '85. So just last Saturday, I had a dialogue with Senator groups, Mr. Coons from Delaware. So, but in short, from agricultural food systems point of view, FAO was established by the President Roosevelt in 1943. And that's before the UN established in Hot Spring. So, and together with Canada, with China, with India, with France, and with British and others from Ecuador also, and it's 42 founding members. I said that, you know, the one guest said FAO is it's really multilateral because only one organization started day one elected DG. It's different from WHO, huh? And elected one country, one vote. You know that you were the diplomat. So, and now it's WHO also since Mr. Tedros become the first one also elected. Before it's select based on the vote of the 37 council members. FAO, we have 49, but FAO, we always elect during past 76, 77 years. That makes a difference. So what I expect, I said publicly, what is the advantage of the United States? for agri-food system and rural development. First, innovation science. Second, and food processing, technology and management, especially family farmer management. Third is enabling policy, how to support the farmers and keep the international trade open, contacts and so on. So that's what I think. Of course, you have to, it's better to have the smallholder farmers to adapt new technology, and not only bad technology and other technology, IT and the machinery and vaccines for animals and so on, animal feed also. So, and the disease control, zoonotic disease and transport disease, you name it. And the nutritional science also. So I think you have a lot of things to offer. But I said also to your Mr. Blinken last year, it's time for America to invest FAO, because you are always #1 assessment contribution, but you need the investment FAO. Yeah, because when you need, you get all this professional technical support for the other region, other countries. Without the investment today, how can you harvest it 10 years later? So because during past 15 years, it was a 0 increase of assessment contribution, but all the cost increased. Our staff, because 14,000 staff globally, FAO, I said FAO is a poor, big, and old organization. And FAO is old, it's not old, it's not poor, it's big, of course. But we have a largest, 197 members. 194 4 members, 3 others. So we are 5 largest in UN headquarters. You can, I feel so poor, you know. During my career, when I was vice president of China Academy, it's 22,000, but we didn't feel that poor. Now it's really poor. So you're America, so support me, support the other people, support yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Director General. And I believe we will give you time for your next meeting just to walk across to wherever you're going right now. But we want to thank you personally for the effort you made to be with us, for the wisdom that you have shared with us and the vistas that you have opened. In fact, I would propose that we would continue with your chief scientist, because I think we all believe that science and innovation is what will help us all to move forward. There is an enormous revolution, both in artificial intelligence and in everything from drip irrigation to hydroponics to vertical farming to transformational biology, which is taking place around the world, and the mobilization of that for the benefit of the poor and the poorest smallholder farmers in the world is what FAO does best, and we all want to help you in that mission. And I hope that you will agree that we can go forward also with developing a little joint program. Maybe we can write it up and submit to you a memorandum of understanding, as we have done with the WHO, because you are leading the world on fundamental mission of development, fighting poverty, and abolishing hunger. So on behalf of all my colleagues, I would like to extend a profound thank you for your participation with us today. And we promise to continue to be in touch with FAO. And with your permission, Ismahane will contact her and submit more things for your consideration.
Thank you, thank you. You can see I didn't expect that the open dialogue so many years. Of Chinese Academy, I was doing a lot of with leading scientists in the world. But now I think I really appreciate your support and your inclusiveness. And of course, FAO is your FAO. It's a members owned, member lead. And ask your representative to support the FAO, and let's work together. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, colleague. That was a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.